Hi guys, good evening one and all. So this is the Seco Big Data's Alumni series episode number 4, guys. And for this alumni episode 4, actually we are having our chief guest and the alumni who is nothing but Arvin Sriram. Uh, like Arvin, hello.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Karthik.
yeah. You are able to hear me, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Arvind is our chief guest, and Arvind Sriram is a senior data engineer. He's currently working at HSBC. Now he has a very good tech stack. He has a very good knowledge on big data tech stack, more specifically. So let me give a quick introduction about himself, and after that, he will try to give a quick introduction about himself. So he's a data engineer with he has worked in batch he has worked on real time pipelines as well on batch processing as well as real time processing also. He has a very good knowledge on big data frameworks like Hadoop, Spark, Hive, Kafka, and he has very good knowledge on databases like PostgreSQL, MySQL, MongoDB, and he has even worked on Azure services as well, more specifically. So let's welcome Arvin, and it's a very great honor that you have accepted our invite and you have came to our fourth episode. And I hope this session will gonna be eye opener for the people who are actually want to get into the data engineering or else who are getting into the data engineering more specifically. And I hope you will give a lot of insights because you are having a lot of experience and you are a senior data engineer as well. So before starting our episode for Arvin, so what I want to tell you is like just try to give some good insights about yourself. Like try to tell about what are the technologies being used. You have been worked from over the years as a data engineer, and just give a quick introduction about yourself. That will be good.
Yeah, thanks, Karthik, for introducing me, and it's a glad to be part of this session today. Um, so as you said, I'm part of the data engineering and background for last 2.5 years with overall with overall around 3.5 years of IT experience. Had an extensive knowledge of what exactly data is, where data comes from, where how we need to handle data. There are many other things we deal with in a day-to-day life, like we need to understand what all the PII information is, how to deal with, how to understand the end stakeholders, is all the things, right? So as you rightly said, this is very important to understand. So I am a background from a Java developer, SQL developer. You can understand for first 1 year of my career as that, and then later on understood the data as we are into as my previous company is more like where it is extensively engaged in data engineering in the area. So I got to understand the depth of knowledge of what exactly data engineering is, where we used to do the same data dealing with Java, and then understood the data value and understood what exactly real time things are going on, what exactly industry is, and tried to pitch in the same knowledge to our project and making sure the clients understand that this Java is not going to help us in getting the things run very faster as the data scales very hugely, and the time consumption as the end users need to make the things very faster than we used to. We brought in Spark and all the stuffs into this our existing project and making sure all the things are in line faster. So that's the reason my journey from Java developer to a big data engineer, having extensive knowledge of data things, PI, how to handle PI information, how to make sure the things meet the SLAs for the end users with the efficient technology and understanding latest trends, what all the things we can use for different things. As you know that it's not about big data, not only understanding what Spark is, only Spark, but it has very wide concepts, wide knowledge need to be read along with the data. So this is what I try to say.
Yeah, thank you. You got you have given your introduction. That is good. Like more specifically, we'll start with few questions, Arvind. And actually, I've picked a few questions actually. Like uh, like when you are working in real time, you have a lot of experience. You have got a lot of experience. You have worked with many companies, and you have worked on real time as well. You have worked on real time pipelines as well as batch pipelines even. So now, what I want to ask you is like, what is the scope of SQL? What is the scope of SQL, and to what extent SQL is being used when you are actually building scalable streaming pipelines or else batch pipelines. So what extent actually you use SQL in a part of your life, like as a data engineer, mostly?
Okay. So in this case, I would like to bring you from a basic level. So
Yeah.
what exactly happened is the big data source is from SQL databases. Then we have Teradata, big data, and there is again vast things going on. From big data, from databases, we came it with the data warehouses. It's simply a databases with the files having distributed computational framework. But underlying, we have we have a SQL querying language like Hive on top of HDFS open source data warehouse. So in the same way, if even though you work with any of the things right now, if you understand, so I mostly work with Databricks. So let's assume that there is a Unity catalog. You have a data across with across different catalogs, and you need, so whatever the data is, it is structured, semi-structured, or unstructured. You need to pull that into a real value for analytics purpose, where you need to put into end user. Most of the cases, as a data engineers, we put the data into tables. So as a data engineer, you are not only, you might, some companies will treat you only as an acquisition engineer, where you will only dump the data and throw, you will not do anything. And in some cases, you will be having a um, staging layer. You will be where you will do some cleanings and do dump it. In some cases, we do transformations with the cleaning. So there, so in
Okay.
that cases, at that point of time as well, you need to understand how the query works. If you don't, I mean, in the sense, like, even you don't write queries, someone will from the data analyst or reporting team will generate the queries. But you need to understand how SQL kind of architecture works, so that you can, build your big data framework. So let me tell you one quick example. Suppose if you're dumping a data of some stock market or something like patient information, if you don't understand what exactly end user is doing, and how your data performs for a query, you will be, it is very difficult for you to ingest it. You need to understand how partition works, how SQL queries work. You might directly or indirectly work with SQL. So if you are acquisition engineer, you might not work, but you need to understand how you need to partition your data so that end user can get the data quick. So understanding internal architecture is very important. Even though you are directly not, you directly write the queries or not write the queries, but you need to have a get quick understanding of writing queries to understand whether your data has been populated well. That is a quick way to check your data pipelines.
Okay. And when it comes to you are saying that directly or indirectly we are using SQL here, and we have to understand the things in a very deep
Hmm.
manner.
Yeah.
Because as a scope of as you said, by your answer, we got to know that there is a lot of scope of SQL, because it's kind of a backbone to the data engineering
Correct,
work.
correct.
So now what I want to ask you is when it comes to SQL, when it comes to SQL, what are mostly used SQL things when we are working in real time? Let's what I mean to say is, like, whether we work with joins, or we work with aggregate functions, or window functions, or what else, like as a data engineer, if someone want to get into the data engineering, or
Okay.
someone is getting into the data engineering, to what extent they should prepare as well?
To be very precise on this,
Yeah.
in this question, so I would like to say understanding all the things is important. So both aggregate as well as joins are important. Why I say this one is, so when you work with some of the metrics department, you need to have lots of joins. When you are, exposing and when you are showcasing your data, you need to first understand dimension and fact modeling. This is very important in the industry. But if you understand proper dimension and fact model, you understand that joins are very crucial. Okay. So this way, what I say, both are equally important, and you need to understand what role you are going to. So if you feel that you are going to e-commerce kind of company, you need to have a proper joins and all the things. If you are going to some life sciences company, where they'll only understand the existing profile, they only want the profile. Suppose if they want a patient information, something like that, then only they, in the sense, they want a profiling. For profiling kind of things, then you would be having aggregate functions. But for a loading or dumping of joins, to expose it to end user as a view, you need to write a proper joins. For joins also, you need to understand what could be a better join. For doing that, again, you need to understand what key should be used, whether primary keys are set up on top of that, whether index is set up on that. So joins, you need to understand internally what is exactly happening in the industries. Everyone knows the concepts, but understanding in depth what could betterize the things, because everyone wants the data faster and quicker. They needs to meet their SLA. Suppose if there is something like a threat is going on, and you have you have pipelines running out, but if you don't do any real time things, and if your SLA is breaching out, and if your queries are very slow as it scales, then it will won't work. So you need to understand both joins and functions to a such an extent that what what better things we can do, what optimizations we can do. Whether if suppose if you say that if you need to do joins, but you don't understand why it is slow, then it won't work. So join understanding both is important, depends on which role you are sitting on. If you are sitting on analytics and reporting zone, most of the things you will be having aggregate functions understanding better, that should be better. If you are sitting on loading the data to end user, to suppose if you are using some medallion kind of architecture, then you need to have a good understanding of joins when you want to load the data to final tables. This is
Okay.
what.
Okay, Sriram. That was a good answer. Moving forward, Sriram, there was a second question from my end. You attended a GBSC, now you are
Yeah.
working in GBSC as a senior data engineer. Can you give a brief understanding about what are the rounds actually you went through over when you are entering into the HSBC? And is there was any online exam first? How many rounds are there? Like there was a, 3 rounds or 4 rounds? Is there was any techno manager round? Just give a brief introduction. How was the things actually?
Okay. In this case, I would like to say that with HSBC, where it was like two rounds was happening, two rounds were done, and the one first in the first round, it's a regular, I mean, offshore manager was taking out, under making sure he understands what exactly I was working in, and his expectations were in line. Like, so whether he wanted to understand whether I worked with the data breaks, data factory, and he tried to picture out some things like, so what all the things we can use. Suppose on data breaks, so what kind of cluster use, what size of the cluster is, what and the type of the cluster, scale of the scale. When I mean by type of cluster, you wanted to understand whether it is a compute optimized or memory optimized, and you also wanted to understand if there is a scale of the data. Suppose rapid scale of the data, how are you trying to adjust your job course or something like that. Where he tried to understand whether we have done it industrially or not. So he also wanted to understand that whether you have done it trial and error mode, or on what basis you are able to get that like how you are able to select that this many cores and this much memory for your job, and all the things. This is what he was able to trying to understand. In the second round, it was like onshore head of data engineering, where there he was also trying to understand what exactly your modeling skills are, and what exactly and he also wanted to understand whether you will be capable enough to quickly understand if there is a given a chance, whether you will be able to, whether you will be interested in picking up new things like Terraform, Kubernetes, streaming in a better way. So that's why he wanted first round to basically understand myself, and second round understanding my modeling skills, understanding my learning and unlearning skills. So that's what it went.
Okay. Okay. These were the rounds. You said that you were having 2 rounds, right?
Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
Is there was any techno managerial round as well where there
Uh,
was no techno managerial?
yeah, I mean, I can say that it's techno manager slash HR round, where so this, I mean, I would also say this should be a very crucial point for everyone who is trying to. So basically, for before starting this, I would like to understand. I mean, how many freshers are there in this session? How many 1 to 3 years of experience, more than 3 years of experience? Firstly, let's go with the freshers who are just running in the college or just passed out. So if you can just raise the hands, it would be better. I'll be able to understand and address accordingly.
You can do one thing, raising the hands might be a bit difficult. You try
Okay.
to segregate as a fresher what to be done, as
Okay.
an
Yeah.
experience 1 to 2 years what would be your answer, and
Okay.
with the people who are having 2+ years of experience, what would be the scenario? Just you can segregate and you can just tell that.
Okay, cool. That
Sure.
that
Yeah.
works. Yeah. So what
Yeah.
I would say, as a fresher, you need to post. I mean, in HR rounds, basically, as a fresher, you need to make sure that you have a good logical skills and learning and learning skills. That should be your thought process, and you should make sure that you need to convince your HR in such a way that I am even though I'm a fresher, I'm very much aligned with the industry, and I'm making sure that you are understanding the industry by looking at the people in the same profession and following them and understanding what are the, you need to pose them in such a way that you are already in the industry and you are ready to kick in as soon as possible. If you are 1 to 3 years of experience, what they will be especially understand thinking asking you is what exactly you have done in your current project, and whether what impact is your as your role is creating to them. And understanding end to end of your project is important, whether you are part, whether you have done that job or you are not, you have not done the job. And also making sure you need to understand what is your end goal. Suppose if I am from life sciences company, or if I am from
Okay.
some e-commerce company, you need to make sure that your end goal, your source should be very clear, and that is where he'll understand that you have a good knowledge of data and you can extract the value from it. If it is 3+ or somewhere around 4 5 years experience, you need to have a good design skills where you can directly ask your question to pull a data from dynamic create a dynamic scalable pipeline where he suppose that there are some, I mean, I went through other companies interviews. Most of the they were trying to ask like, given a chance, develop a data factory pipeline where it should be scalable enough, so it should be dynamic in such a way that it should dynamically pick number data warehouse, I mean different databases, I mean that database should be number of database info should be dynamic. And also from that databases, I mean from that servers, what are the different databases we need to pick out, and from that databases what are the tables need to be copied to some of the layer. This is a dynamic people dynamic pipeline they wanted us me to build design. So these are the things it goes from like your role should be and your
Okay.
experience whereas.
Cool. Cool. And we'll move forward with the next question, Sriram. So next question was like, what is the tech stack being used in HSBC? Now currently you are working, right? Whether you work on on-prem kind of things, whether you are using HDFS, Hive, Spark, or you work with the ADF kind of things, or you're working totally on Azure kind of things, or whether you're working with on-prem kind of things as well. Just can you give a brief understanding? What is the ingestion tool being used currently when you are working in real time? Like what is the data warehouse being used? Like is Spark SQL being used? Just can you give a good insight on that? That would be better.
Yeah, as a whole as a whole project we will be only using Azure tech stack. As you know
Okay.
that for Azure the best acquisition and ingestion tool is Azure Data Factory, when and also
Okay.
Azure Functions for writing your custom functions. And when it comes to this point, again I would like to make sure that you need to understand what is a cost perspective. When it is cloud, you need to understand what all the cost things which is causing huge cost. Suppose if you understand Azure Data Factory itself. So when you hit the API, it will charge for API cost. So you need to understand what can be replaced with the API hitting. I mean external API. I'm saying from where we are pulling from data. So you need to
Okay.
understand what we can replace from moving from. So we'll be using Azure functions to write the custom code where the we'll call from the data factory and something. So whenever you're designing a pipeline, you need to understand what best we can optimize the cost, and you need to intimate your, even though he knows or does not, even though your tech lead or tech head of data engineering, someone might not know, but it would be appreciated that if you keep on intimating them that this will be costing huge data and you cannot change its scale as quickly as possible, because the underlying pulling of the data is not under your control. So in that
Oh,
cases we'll be using Azure functions, and alerting we'll be using logic app, but all the things, and Databricks for computational and computational metrics analytics purpose reporting and all the stuff. So this way entire tech stack, Azure Data Factory functions, um, reporting, Databricks, SQL for a Power BI as perspective. This is what it goes with, and we will not be using a data warehouse. It's, as you know that Azure and all the clouds provide only data lakes. So you need
exactly.
to, yeah, and also from this perspective, everyone should understand what exactly data warehouse, why data lake came into picture, why it is in the boom, why data warehouses are out of the stake. So like ML is not going to work in data warehouse, streaming won't work out, which is very important. In couple of years, streaming will be the only way, which is important. So that's why we work with data lake and Spark SQL. It will be used in Databricks for writing some of the reporting and something like that, analytics
Okay,
purpose.
cool. Cool. We'll try to pick up one more question. Uh,
Yeah,
like Sriram. And
yeah.
next question was like, as a data engineer, what actually you work on day-to-day life? Like, is there are already inbuilt pipelines, or else you will build the data pipelines on a daily basis, or else you will run like let's consider if you are working on Spark, not about HSBC. Even you have worked on many other companies as well. You might have worked on batch processing as well. Currently, you might be working on Azure, but previously you might have worked on batch processing as well. So when you are when you are working on batch processing as well, so what actually used to the scenario? Like whether you used to build data pipeline daily, or whether you used to run your Spark submit job every day, or what are the whether you used to work on new requirements daily, or what else you used to do? Like you used to monitor the jobs. What like you used to get any tickets? Like what actually you used to do on a day to day basis as a data engineer, more specifically?
Yeah,
You
as a
just give an
data,
you just give an insight in terms of batch processing as well, and try to give it on cloud as well.
yeah. So as a data engineer, our responsibility is not only just building out pipelines or not just monitoring. It's a cumulative effort of both. So our data sources keep on increasing because end users want to understand different perspective from different databases. If a database is come, and also here again it depends. So even in the batch processing, we have 1 hour to 1 week, 1 hour to 1 month. So some pipelines keep on running for every 1 hour. Some pipelines keep on running for 1 day or something like that. We'll be having alerting messages, and I used to use Airflow, and Airflow used to render us a alerting mechanism and understand. So we'll be getting alerts and we need to monitor it. So we'll not be so basically, as I previously said, whatever can be done as a data engineer, we need to make sure our efforts are reduced and it should be automated, like even alerting. So if use Azure Data Factory, use on-prem, try to send that alert whenever a mail is dumped, whenever something inappropriate is done, instead of you going out checking out every time. That is not going to be feasible, because sometimes you might end up with some other pipelines, and you might not understand what is going wrong or what is going right. So you making sure we have done all the alerts, and I need to continuously develop pipelines for new things. Even the framework might be, patterns might be same, but the source might be varying, and the destination might be varying, different computation, different logics might be varying. That was my thing. And when we were doing Spark submit for our on-prem whenever our cloud was on-prem, but when it is all Databricks, so most cases we'll not be using Spark submit. It is not at all required in when we use cloud, but when I used to run my on-premise job, I definitely use Spark submit, and where we can directly, for specific to job, we can directly change our configuration, like executor codes or worker nodes and something like that, and we can use this common shared clusters very efficiently, similar to the job cluster. So whenever you specify, then it becomes job cluster. You will be having all the things assigned to you, and that can be done. So this is what.
Okay, cool. It was a cool answer. We'll move forward with one more question, Arvin. And next question was like, what are the main topics should be focused on Spark, like more specifically? Do RDDs are real in real time? Do we use still we use RDDs, or we use data frames, or we use data sets? Like whether data sets are being used. There was many people were asking that what are the main topics should be focused as a data engineer when we are specifically working on Spark.
Okay. So I would say that even though auditors are directly not used, I mean directly not used in the sense, most of the cases they are not used. They will not be using it RDS directly, but why I say why they will not be using is also very clear, because RDD does not have any optimization techniques underlying. The reason why we use Spark is for effective optimization, AQ, adaptive query optimization, AQ, and all the things. Adaptive query, it will directly understand and render the cost. But if you do in RDDs, then there is no optimization, all the stuff. But even underlying data frames, everything is RDD. That's a core thing in the Spark. So most of the cases, data frames are used as per my understanding with respect to industry standards, whether it's my company or whether I look at different people with different understand what different what else they work with. But most of the things, data frames are used because they are very efficient, and optimizations are underlying in that, no, I mean, data sets are very crucial only in specific cases where their data is sensitive, where their case they want to mention that sensitivity as well. But I don't think that sensitive data they'll be having. I mean, if that is that much sensitive, they'll be going with different things like yeah, they will definitely use something like streaming sources, because if that is that much sensitive, then they'll definitely have their SLEs high and something like that. That's what my understanding is. Data frames are effectively used over the industry. But if you are dealing with some of the image processing or some satellite data, RDDs will be used, because when I had an interview, then they are specifically interview with Apple, then they are specifically dealing with RDDs and something like that.
Two data sets are being used then, like data sets.
Yeah, I did not use data sets technically, but I
Okay.
said that if there is very sensitive data, then where they want to maintain, where data frames should not be, what happens with data frame is they'll try to infer the schema directly, but with respect to data sets, they don't want to change the source data without without the interpretation. So in the sense like they don't want they want the Spark for loading the data instead of Spark doing its job of I mean understanding the data. That's where
Okay,
data
cool.
sets are used.
Cool. We'll try to move it. We'll try to move it with one more question.
Yeah,
And next question was like as a data engineer, as a data
yeah,
engineer in current trend,
yeah,
what a data engineer should learn. Like there is when we are dealing with Spark is dependent upon some language, right?
yeah.
Spark is dependent upon Java, Spark is dependent upon Python, Spark is dependent upon Scala. So
Yeah.
what one should, like, if some data engineer, say someone want to enter into the data engineering, so what would be your insight? Like, can you give insight on that, whether one should go with Scala Spark or one should go with Python Spark?
So what whether you go with Python Spark, whether you go with Scala Spark, I would definitely make sure suggest you that you understand basics. So as I came from Java background, I completely understand what exactly JVM is, what exactly heap is, what exactly serialization is, all the things. But if you are from SQL background, if you don't understand the JVM underlying architecture where Spark also runs, so that's where you need to, I mean, Python would be better if you are underlying wanted to go into a complete NLP modeling, all the things. Why I say Python? So my downstream team to be will be a data scientist, where they are interested in running, they're using the Python in build like scikit-learn or whatever it might be for doing their annotations or something like that. So in that case, it will be always in the sense like if they want to change something underlying Python versioning or something like that, then entire from acquisition to if they are using same shop cluster, something like that, PySpark will be helpful when you want to use the industry standards, data science libraries or something like that. But Scala is that is very different. I mean, very better and efficient way of things. Previously, what happened is Scala is only the I mean, Scala used to have all the function where Spark is because it is built with Scala. But right now, if the version is released in Scala, then it is coming up in Python in the within next shortly less than 10-15 days or 1 month max. So there is no much variance as previously where Scala used to have more functions, more right now with Python also you are able to understand, you are able to, but Scala what happens is you can customize more the things, but with Python you cannot do because Scala is written in Spark is written in Scala. But as a data engineer, as per my understanding, some of the pipelines will be written in Scala. Whenever a chance is given, they'll be asking us to debug that. So you need, at least if you are not able to code, you need to understand the syntax, you need to understand it workflows of Scala. That's what my suggestion is. Even though you are not aware about language, you need to understand a language as a language. So just Python is different, and Java, JVM, all these functional languages are different. So you need to understand the workflows. You need to be able to debug it. Instead, you need not write it. They'll not force like you need to write in Scala unless and it is uh, he is from Java background and he is not aware of Python. Then he'll ask him that way.
Cool answer. Thank you, Arvind. And we'll move forward with one more question.
Yeah.
Like, uh, like, do cloud is important? Do you think that, like, do there is a chance that if you don't know cloud and you will be not allowed for the interviews more specifically? There is a chance in India more specifically. Like, there is many things, right? Whether cloud is mandatory in India, the cloud is mandatory in USA. Like what? Like if you think like let's consider India only. Like is cloud plays that important role that if you don't know cloud, you are not able, you are not eligible for the interview. Is there is such chance?
They'll not outrightly reject you. But what I would say is instead you can post them that I am aware of the cloud, but did not get a chance to. Given a chance, I will be excelling in that. I understand. So if you, so all the cloud providers have their free platform. There you can go and go prepare it. So from first 1.5 year, I am not. I'm in on-prem, so I learned from myself. So it is very important why everyone wants to move to cloud is very simple. So now I can tell you when you have a data in GCP or anything, so the GCP provides more better services for analytics purposes. So everyone wants to use the latest trends and latest services provided by different vendors, whether it is a competitor or doesn't matter. They want to get the output from the best services. So that's the reason they are moving to cloud to efficiently use the services and make the things faster and get the insights faster. So you need to have a instead, even though you did not get a chance to work in cloud, you need to have a clear understanding how cloud works and what are the services offered, at least with one cloud in a first go. I mean, currently Azure Data Factory is going well. Previously AWS were there. So you need to understand what is the range. You firstly, if you are attending anything, then it would be better if you go have a background of what the company does. So then you can pose in that way. But I don't think they'll be outright rejecting. There are a couple of friends who have recently switched out, but they don't have any background of cloud, but they were able to get into.
Oh, cool answer, Arvind. Let's move with one more question.
Yeah.
Like, does streaming is optional or it's mandatory to learn when we are moving into the like when we are moving into data engineering?
Okay, this question is, I mean, slightly typical. We cannot say that streaming might be very important for some of the companies, but this will, at this point of time, they will not reject you just that you don't know streaming. But you
Cool.
can mention that you are aware of Kafka, something like that. You have worked with that, and you will be able to pick it. But down the line, at least 4 years or my anticipation is 4 to 5 years. Then streaming is the only way they are going to dump the data, because all the pipelines right now, batch, once they are automated, and many very less alerts. All those things are alerted, and you need not work more on the batch things. So streaming would be ultimate goal down the line 4 years. Even though you start learning batch right now, you can pick up to the industry down the line 4 to 5 years. Right now it is not as mandatory as it is.
Cool. Cool, Arvind. We'll move forward with one more question.
Yep.
And the 10th question was like, what are the schedulers actually being used in current trend? Like what actually, like what are the mostly used tools, like scheduler tools?
Okay.
Like when you are working on on-prem and when you are working on cloud as well.
Okay. So basically scheduling, I mean, everyone thinks as my current organization somewhere they think that I can write a cron job I can do, but there is a lot of things you need to understand when respect to, I mean, how many tasks it need to be, how many parallel jobs, what is the cluster capacity for doing this and job. So Uzi was very old. It is not able to adapt to new things. So many old companies, very cost efficient financial companies where it will still use Uzi, where my friends were working,
Exactly.
they were trying to tell that they were using Uzi, because they cannot switch as it is, because financial operations you cannot directly roll out. They need to do a lot of POC, and the scale, I mean, switching it takes a lot of efforts, a lot of time. Everything is on-prem till now for the financial industry. But Airflow, I work with Airflow, a lot of the things. Many people reached out to me Airflow, because that's, I mean, even though it's from long time, but still improvements are going. As it is open source, you have a lot of executors, lot of operators, lot of things integrated with that. You need not work more of the things when it is open source. All this Spark, all the things common, I mean, you will have a good operators, good development in the open source, and you can use it quickly, and any changes, any issues can be quickly, as a platform can be developed as it is in the trend. Anything which is in the trend have a good and it is open source, then we can have all the components integrated as fast as it can.
Okay,
Airflow is
cool.
better, I feel.
Yeah, cool, Arvind. Like a quick last question, and then we'll try to pick up the questions of audience.
Yeah.
Like, can you give some insights for the people or the freshers who want to enter into the data engineering? Like,
Okay.
what is the minimum years of experience if one should have if he want to get into data engineering more specifically, or what are the prerequisites more specifically one should know if he want to get into the data engineering?
Okay. So currently, from last 2 to 3 years, everyone is aware that big data is in the boom. Just because that, as you know, that COVID data has been chunking lots of chunks of data is throwing out. As everyone knows, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, has mentioned that the scale of data has been grown, and they hired a lot of people. In the sense that similarly, if companies like Meta are mentioning that data is, I mean, their operations are increasing at a scale as a AdSense company. All the companies in the e-commerce or any companies keep on growing with the data. So everyone should, I mean, everyone should understand that data engineer is a role which has been evolving from last 3 4 years, and the people from college are directly getting into data engineering role in the top companies like Amazon, Meta, or something like that. But if you are a fresher, you might not be available, you might not be aware of Spark and all the things. You, in the sense, you need to be aware of your logical skills and your Spark, sorry, not Spark, SQL databases, whatever you work. And you need to make sure that you need to project that you are in line with the data. You have done these many projects and you have used SQL for your end users. Suppose if you use Java or Spring Boot previously, have done some project, you need to make sure that I have written as efficient queries. You need to make sure that what makes your query efficient, something like that. You need to project in such a way that you are better in understanding data and you are able to write optimizing pipelines or something like that, understanding what exactly industry is. That will help.
Okay, cool. Like, what are the like? Do you think that freshers having lot of openings as a data engineer?
Yeah, as a data engineer, I mean, still it is evolving down the line. The situation when I came out, there is, I mean, I completely agree that I'm not aware of the word data engineer when I'm out of the college. But from last 2 to 3 years, companies like Amazon are also providing offers for a data engineer. First, they get into a data engineer intern, and then I see many of my friends or
Okay.
from LinkedIn that they joined as a fresher. But you need to have an exposure of telling the interviewer that I am very good, and logical skills as a fresher. You will be mostly and
Okay, cool.
thinking, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, Arvind, you answered all the questions in a very patience, with very patience. Now it's turn to audience. Let them ask a few questions, whatever the questions they want to ask. I hope you will try to give a good insights for that.
yeah.
Okay, audience, like it's up to your turn. Whatever the if you have any questions, you can ask more specifically, or else you can raise the hand more specifically. Gautam Sagar Reddy is raising the hand more specifically. Gautam, you can unmute and you can speak and you can ask whatever the questions you have. Yeah, Gautam.
Hi, Arvind. I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Can you explain about your project architecture a little bit more on banking side?
Um,
Like what kind of data you get, what kind of data you process,
okay.
what's your end destination?
I mean, I recently joined HSBC. I have a bit understanding of, I mean, I could say that I have just small understanding over there, but I can say that so I deal with some of the data from different sources. So as a data engineer, we have things like internal data generation tools, external data generation. When I mean by internal data generation tools, suppose you are using Teams, you are using Zoom, okay? So everyone will be logging, and everyone need to, as a company, you need, everyone should, as a senior executive, they need to understand, is there any malicious people joining our organization's meetings? So Zoom data will be thrown into some of the external data. So Zoom people will be providing us APIs. Okay, we need to use that APIs, and that will be JSON, and we'll be storing into some blob or something like that. Then the medial people will be trying to flatten that JSON and then understand what are the out of guest users, how many guest users are joining, what is the duration of the, what is the average duration of Zoom meeting, something like that. So this is the architecture it goes. But whenever, I mean, if you speak about financial, again there it varies again. So you are, whether you are into wholesale, whether you are into cyber security, whether you are into marketing
Yeah.
teams, this varies.
Sales
But
team.
sales, yeah, marketing and sales,
Yeah.
where the promotions
Yeah.
are there. So they want to project a promotion. So there they want to understand, they'll be having all the data and they'll be dumping it, and they wanted to understand what is the last transaction of him, I mean credit card promotion, something like that, you understand. And they'll be able to understand what marketing, what are the options we have, and what can we send a message, something like that.
Okay, cool. I think
Okay, so what is your end destination, Arvin?
Yeah, here in destination would be a catalog tables, delta tables.
Okay, thank you.
like he is specifically asking in terms of like he might not be aware of that ADF. He's expecting that whether it is a Hive, like when it comes to Hive, if it's a
Hmm.
Hive table or what H-based table, Hive table, that in that context.
Yeah,
Like previous, you can depict it from like on-prem architecture.
so Karthik,
Yeah,
you're correct, but what I could say is, so you know that we'll not be only. I mean, I loaded some of the tables onto Hive, some of that files
yeah,
into directly HDFs. So there will
yeah,
be I exposed it as Hive tables, I exposed it as BigQuery tables, I exposed it as so all the things. What I am trying to get is,
yeah,
I'm not sure Gautam whether I answered your question correctly or not, but I would say that you have a different team. You will not be only dealing with one. You need to deal with multiple architecture. But I'm trying to
exactly,
segregate multiple things, because even though you are one team, then people from all the teams will be pushing the questions and wanted the data. They want to check out their data. So that's where I
exactly.
wanted trying to tell.
So
So
you
I
mean
want to
the
add,
end system
yeah,
is
yeah,
data lake,
Yeah,
delta lake?
yeah. Currently, I mean, in my previous organization, it was data warehouse. Right now, it is data lake, Delta Lake.
So delta lake and data lake are not same, right?
Not same, not same. So
Delta
Delta
lake is
Lake,
something related to Databricks.
it is not exactly. I mean, it is currently Delta Lake is related to, but there are other vendors which are providing similar, like Iceberg, Apache Iceberg, where they'll be having their engine sitting on top of data lake, which can provide a similar services as a data warehouse, database, something like that. That is the engine. Apache Iceberg is also doing the same thing, but Delta Lake is growing exponentially as they are from Spark background, and Databricks as service they are providing Delta Lake as a hype. But you have Apache Iceberg as well doing the same stuff.
Okay, yeah, got it.
yeah.
Thank
I
you.
want to add a comment on Arvind's answer as well. So Delta Lake is not common specific to Azure. More specifically, Delta Lake is something. Let's consider like on Spark. On Spark, if you want to apply acid compliance, on Spark, if you want to apply acid compliance, then this Delta Lake will come into the picture, which is a feature where actually it's kind of an intermediate layer, where actually it pushes the Spark data onto itself, and it will provide you the acid compliance feature on Spark directly. So now the thing is, you are not applying acid compliance directly onto this data where actually directly onto the data on Spark data where actually it is stored. Now there is an intermediate layer generated, which is nothing but Delta Lake. So on that, actually you will perform acid compliance. This is where actually Delta Lake will come into the picture when you are working with on-prem kind of like Spark specifically, not cloud kind of Spark. Got it, Gautam?
Yes,
No.
Karthik.
Yeah, here I could
So
say one quick
Yeah.
addition here. So what exactly it's a data lake? You'll have additional folder called underscore delta dot log, where it will have all the transactions logged in it,
Exactly.
and Spark will understand delta as a format, understand what exactly it should bring from. So
Exactly.
if you are from SQL background, underlying SQL also maintains a file and understand what data it should pick from. Similarly, so delta lake is a concept where they want to replicate data lake similar to a database where they can query similar as a SQL queries. That's the underlying logic. If you are trying to load it as a Delta Lake, go check it. Will be a Delta log, and you have the JSON files which will have information of what partition data is getting loaded, which partition is the latest, and it has time
Okay.
travel, all the other things.
yeah, got
Cool.
it. Thank you so
Cool.
much.
Yeah. There was one more question from Rohan Sarvin.
Yeah,
Rohan, you can unmute and you can ask the question, Rohan.
Hey Arvind, hi.
yeah, Hiron.
It is very nice whatever you have said, like a lot of things to learn. So my question is specifically towards data qualities. Have you ever like worked with data qualities, and what exactly is the visualization about it? Like what exactly we do with it, how it is implemented?
Yeah, data quality is very important, because suppose if you deal with financial data or life sciences data, so as I said that you have a patient metrics. So quality of data is very important. In the sense, when I mean by quality, so if you are having, so if there is an issue coming from some IoT device where the data which is generated is throwing some erroneous data, and if you are doing the analytics on top of that, if you don't understand, if you don't clean it and dump it, you'll not be able to get a proper metric. Suppose if you're using some PP machine or sugar machine, and if you are doing some alerts on top of him, and if you get that RNS data, and if peak value is 100, but due to some issues it was somewhere around 150 something, then if you're still if that metric is still part of your, then then your data quality is not good, and you will not be able to get a proper insight. So quality is very important, and I dealt with clinical trials data, so I did not use any quality specific tools for quality, but we have written it in whether it is Java or Spark while cleaning the data. That's what.
Okay, and one more question I would add, like,
Yeah.
see, for me, like, I have come from, like, I'm more towards modern data warehouses and all.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
I'm not clean about what is Hadoop, what is Hive, what is, MapReduce. I don't care about those things because I see like it is of no use to me because I'm using modern data warehouses. So
Okay.
what is the point where we at least we can have a little understanding or a crisp understanding so that maybe we can give interview like whenever there is an interview for us we can at least have something to say about it.
Okay. So here what I'll say is, so whether you work with data warehouses, whether you work with any data lakes or something like that, does not matter. But you need to understand how things are working. And suppose if you have mentioned rightly map reduce. So
Mm.
right now it is almost done for map reduce. Why it is done? So you can, so if something, the better way I could say is try to push. So whenever you are being asked map reduce or something like that, try to understand why it is being eliminated or why it is coming into picture. Okay, so if it is
Mhm.
eliminated, try to picture out why it is eliminating, why it is getting
Exactly.
eliminated. Okay, so
Okay.
map reduce is being eliminated because no one is interested in writing that much complex logic. It is very tough, even even Java developers, right? As a Java developer, it is very tough to write a mappers, and selecting number of mappers is also very tough because you need not you are not aware of right now selecting. I mean, you can tune it, but it is very difficult, and you need to select how many mappers you want and how many joins, and writing that is very complex, and that is in-house. And you for every if you are dealing with lots of chunks of data, and if you don't do it properly, then you will be end up with large number of files. Again, there is a name node issue coming up. So if you can speak out these things, then you will be able to understand you worked with it even though you are not aware of it.
Mhm.
So understand what it is coming out from and what is its role previously and why it is being eliminated.
Okay, okay, yeah,
Did I answer your
understand.
question?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
true.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Cool
Thank you.
role. Right. Thank you. Uh, there was one question from Vijay Kumar, like more specifically. Yeah, Vijay, you can unmute and ask.
Yeah, thank you, Karthik, and thank
Yeah.
you, Arvin, for your valuable information, which gave us a lot of information which we need to learn and we have to think on that. The most of the questions asked by people are relevant. I have also same doubts, so I got answers. But I wanted to specifically ask you, like in your career, I mean, so far, how do you deal with data skewness and how did you handle long running jobs which
Okay.
even though you have configured with a proper uh, memory like for how many number of executors cores
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, this is very good question. This is one of the top questions being asked in the interview as well. So here in this case, I would firstly, long running jobs can be due to many reasons. Either the source is not source latency between the source where we are pulling from might not allow you where you are. Suppose you are pulling from API, suppose you are pulling from data where it might be relying it might be lying in very large. Suppose if you are pulling it from India, and it might lie in UK or it might lie in USA where the networking latency might be very. And this is one issue where you don't have a proper amount of requested cluster size or driver, something like this can be other issue. And without proper partition of, even though you have partition, the skewness which you are asking out, you need to be very clear, and you need to understand you need to make sure that whether it is properly partitioned. Check out whether your architecture is working fine, the partition is fine. Even the partition is fine, suppose cluster, if it is like e-commerce company where you will be having a huge chunks of data coming out in the festive sales. In that case, you need to be very clear whenever your data size, you need to have some. So in my company, we used to have some table where if the partition is greater than something like that, we used to again repartition it with respect to some other key, doing some surrogate key. If you guys have understood about surrogate key, I mean, you can say
Exactly.
similar to it has range of surrogate key. We call it, if you are doing with range, you can call it a surrogate key in a SQL terminology. And if you can do is range partition by range, and then break it out, and then divide it, and that would be a underlying logic directly. If the partition size, we would be first getting understanding what exactly partition size. If you don't understand the partition size, if you directly do it, then we face the similar issues where it was running for a long time. So in that case, we'll be having checking the doing a first, do we do a crawl on top of that and understand what is the file size. If the file size is greater than the partition level file size is greater than some 50 GB or 100 GB, and if the cluster size is very 10 GB or 15 GB which you are using, if possible, we can directly scale it up to the cluster size. As we are using job cluster, we can scale it up for that particular day, or if in case we can use a range partition, or we can do hashing, we can do salting mechanism, which the industry is doing. The same thing we used to do it. Did I answer your question, Vijay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that long running job is not from the source. When you submit a
Hmm.
job with the Spark Submit, or in our company, we'll use a tool which is using by our company, that's called Spark Share. This one,
Hmm.
SCAS, using SCAS library, we
Hmm. Hmm.
will convert all the jobs as a start Spark session. It's a
Hmm. Hmm.
command. So
Hmm. Hmm.
those while submitting job, will pass number of executors, driver memory,
Yeah. Yeah.
all these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
So here within the Spark submit, within the Spark job,
Yeah.
sometimes I really face like jobs have gone into long, and we used to kill that job.
Okay.
And we will first thing what we'll check is there any cluster uh, high utilization is happening by different
Hmm.
properties as well. Not only our property, there are many properties are using cluster, right? So the
Okay.
cluster resource will be shared by different
Okay.
Different as business
properties as well.
units.
Yeah,
Different users. It's a shared cluster.
yeah,
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so here,
So yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. And also here, one thing, like in this case, how you handle it, as you
Okay.
said, like we need to check the number of small files are generating
Hmm. Hmm.
uh,
Correct.
for our partition.
Yeah.
So is like I applied manually. Like there are some parameters like which we pass it in the Spark. Spark
Submit.
job has a like Spark parameters, which is having like there are some parameters which will define that, and those will take care of reducing the number of files.
Okay.
So even though those parameters have applied, I didn't see any much
Okay.
impact for those
Okay.
parameters as well. To reduce
Okay.
this number of files, we used to normally write a PySpark job by passing
Okay.
coalesce and
Okay.
giving HDFs block as a 120 or 128 MB or 256 MB
Okay.
block
Okay.
size. We used to reduce that number of files
Okay.
again as a separate job. Is there
Okay.
any kind of like handling at this job level itself instead of having separate
Okay.
compaction framework like writing in Python?
Okay.
We used to write in Python.
Okay.
So based on that one, I'm asking. I mean,
Okay. Correct. Okay. In the sense, I can you can again divide it into. Are you using any user defined functions in your jobs? User
uh,
def
yeah, yes,
User defined functions, right?
yeah,
Okay. UDFs are not optimistic in PySpark. So if you clearly go check it, it might be one core. It will not effectively utilize your all the cluster metrics. Go check it out, because I
Exactly.
I also face the same thing.
yeah.
In
As
that
you said,
case,
yeah,
correct?
we are also using one UDF function, which is we are going to generate a key for the each and every insert.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Key for, in the sense, like you want a unique key for each of the row.
Yes, yes, unique key of each of the row. We have
Okay. Mm.
yeah, that only that UDF function we are using it
Okay. In for
like surrogate
generating
key.
key,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. For generating key, you want it to be identity column, or you want it to be a unique column, or what is your thought process? Because for doing a unique identifier, then we have other things like monotonical monotonical, there is a function if
Increasing,
monotonical
monotonical
increase.
increasing
Yes,
function.
monitoring. There it will handle that. It will handle the unique key will be generated, but you need to properly take care of it. But whenever you are running it again, that should be a greater than value greater than your current maximum identifier, something like that.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
basically, try to avoid UDF. UDFs are going to kill your take long time for your job because again the serialization concept. Serialization
Okay.
by default, Java will not use Cairo serializer. Cairo serializer is the efficient way to make your Java UDF. Why I say for UDF only because UDF should be converted and loaded into a serialized byte format for the JVM. So if you specify the serializer default serializer to a Cairo serializer, that can also again if and you said that when you rerun it, it is coming up right. Then your GCs are not working fine. By the other jobs, the GC is getting loaded back and it is not getting very clicker now. These are the
Exactly.
many things you need to deal.
Okay.
So
Okay.
always I mean some of the people might be using dynamic and some of the resources are using more the problem with this shared clusters is so some of the job might not be using more cluster cluster computation like more drivers more cores and something, and you might not get a course because they are not. I don't think in most cases they will be having a specific job limitation, but in some companies they are not doing it. That is causing problems to cross jobs.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cross jobs. Okay.
In the sense like you are doing job and someone uses the complete memory by doing catchy or
Yes.
something like that, and then you
Yes.
will
Yes.
end up. So what you can suggest to your cluster admin is to make sure that a job will not break out these limitations where you can enforce it on the data warehouse level or cluster level. Sorry, not
Yeah.
data warehouse,
Exactly.
cluster level. So that can help you that you have a specific course or specific for your job where other job will not pull out from you, and you will not end up not, running your job for a long time where it will not have a resources to run your job.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Arvin.
Thank you, Arvind. And we'll try to pick up one more question, Arvind. Like, there was a guy who's asking that AWS/GCP/Azure. Like, he's
Yeah.
asking that as per industry, if someone fresher want to learn, what he should choose, whether he should choose AWS, whether he choose GCP, or whether he should choose Azure, as per current industry.
Okay, so basically, I feel that AWS, I mean, I might not be correct, but I feel that GCP is going into, I mean, it's if you see the last, I say as per my understanding, the last session of GCP CEO, I have mentioned that 30 to 40% has been the revenue increase. In the sense, you can clearly understand that GCP is taking into the picture when it comes to data science. And when it comes to Azure, it is taking its picture in the acquisition space. When it comes to data science space, if you see AWS as a space is going as a pace is going when it wants it to be, I mean, for a application level, not on a pipeline level. You don't, if you see
Okay.
as a glue or anything, glue, all the things, you need to write your Python code. There is no code tool. Everyone is interested in no code tools. So that's the reason Azure Data Factory as a service is having a very good UI, and here in GCP you have data flow, data fusion, and something like that, where you can have all the things, and you have the similar data science capability. A lot of data science capabilities are integrated in GCP. That way, everyone is trying to move from AWS because it's more costly again. The cost is very important. GCP has a lot of very minimal cost. So they are trying to market is getting moved to GCP. So if you are trying to get into GCP, I mean data science, then you better concentrate on GCP level. If you are trying to get an application metrics or something, just a data engineer for data analysis, then AWS or Azure also works out. But if your end goal is to move to a data science level, data NLP engineer, AML engineer, then I would be better suggesting you to go to with GCP because you will have a similar data science guys will be sitting on the same GCP as well.
Cool, Ron. Cool, Arvind. And one more question from Gautam. Like, he was asking, like, he raised the hand. Yes,
Yeah,
Gautam, you can ask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hi Arvind. So one more
yeah,
question.
yeah,
Recent days, Snowflake is taking a lead even
yeah,
in big data, right?
yeah.
How it's gonna replace? Can you give some light on it?
Okay. So basically, as an executive, Snowflake as it came into picture as a virtual data warehouse, correct? So basically, their end goal is to make sure the executives are basing on your level position, then you will have a complete priority of using the underlying warehouse instead of without replicating your data and using the computational dynamic. Like it also uses computational power basing on your role. So it can help you in the dashboarding and all the virtual data warehouse. That space is going to be more, it has more grip over that. So it is equally competitor for Databricks right now. So for Databricks, AML is more powerful right now. They have auto ML and all the stuff. So if you want to go as a reporting analytics way, then Snowflake is going to pitch in, and you have a cross layer right now. Databricks is coming into this space because that's the reason they are they have brought up Databricks SQL serverless SQL server, in the sense that you can directly view the data without running your jobs in the Databricks itself, similar to JDBC. But with respect to Snowflake, the main advantage is you can segregate your computational power and you can align the power to, like if you are from executive, you can directly have use more computational instead of relying on source database. That's why Snowflake works for executive analysis dashboarding kind of pipeline. For ML modeling, you want to run some analytics, NLP modeling, then Databricks will be very so it depends where your scope is. Even though again Snowflake, Snowpipe, Snowspark, all these are coming just to override with the Databricks. So everyone is into the market, everyone has its market, but Snowflake has more market for virtual data warehouses and analytics for executive dashboarding. More they are used, as per my understanding.
Okay,
One more
cool.
question. In terms of costing, which one is more effective, Arvin?
For which job, that again varies. Which jobs? Databricks is costly, Snowflake is also costly, but
Okay.
where you want, like
So,
if you want it to be ML modeling, then Databricks will help you because they have AutoML. But if you are not, if you are interested in modeling and if you are going into Snowflake, then they'll not have any space in there. That's it.
okay, I got it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arvin.
Yeah,
Like
thank
we'll some more questions. Like audience, if you're having any questions, you can ask. And there was one more question from Aditya. It seems like he was asking more specifically. Like, can you explain more about real-time data processing? Real-time
Okay.
data processing. He was asking more specifically.
Okay, cool. So real-time processing. So I can say that when I'm Twitter Twitter, let's take Twitter. So government keeps on pushing lots of what I say, lots of hands on this social media platform, because you cannot put even though Twitter is a platform, if someone from any malicious or someone from what I can say Marxism or someone want to enforce with this feedback, so you cannot directly post to Twitter, and as a platform you cannot make sure that this is a platform where you have all the rubbish. So in that case, you need to have a real-time processing like Kafka, where it will directly send a messages to Kafka and understand with the NLP modeling. You need to understand the data which is coming, and within short time, you need to repost it within 30 seconds to 1 minute or 5 minutes, based on your real-time processing capability, understanding with the keywords which you with your data which you have, and then these are one of the thing. And if you have a this is one of the very critical example I can say, real time, and you can have mostly Kafka. And Flink is very important. When you have messaging queue system, then Kafka works out. But if you want to stream the data, suppose if you want to replace AWS S3 bucket data to some from AWS to from GCP BigQuery to some SQL, Synapse, something like that, you want to stream the data continuous, then Apache Flink will be helpful. Spark is not more into that. The Apache Flink is very influent streaming. So you need to understand what exactly what is the purpose of it. Then you can directly
Okay.
change whether it is Kafka or Flink or Spark streaming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Arvin. I think almost you answered every question and very patiently. Thank you a lot. And there was one more. We'll try to wind up by taking one more question, Arvin.
Yeah.
Yes, Agar. Yeah, Gautam. You can unmute and you can ask.
Arvin,
Yeah.
you told me like Flink, right? So
Yeah.
basically, can you give some insight on it? Like, because I used it in my project. So basically, what I have done is when I try to stream from when I try to during Kinesis streaming from one stream to another stream, I
Correct.
used a Flink application to
Okay.
transfer the data, and I cached using Lambda function.
Okay.
Can you give some insight on the Flink?
So Flink, I mean, you guys are aware about Kappa architecture, Lambda Kappa architecture?
No.
Okay, Kappa architecture is for streaming, and latency, all the things are very, I mean, latency is very slow when it comes to Flink and something like that. But if you go with Spark, you need to maintain all the things. But Flink, as a source, has all the capabilities. I mean, I did not work with Apache Flink. I could not, I mean, I will not be able to give more insight. I just done small POC, so that's the reason I could not be, I would not be the correct person to speak more about Apache Flink, Gautam. Just
Okay.
Sure. So what's
Cool.
yeah.
the service that we have replacement for the Flink in Azure?
Event, I mean, that is
Mhm.
for Kafka, but for Flink there is no service specific for in Azure.
Okay. Okay.
Mostly they'll
And
use Event Hub for streaming the data, but the similar pipeline which you were mentioning from the DB to DB replacement, they will be direct. There is nothing similar to this in Azure. I don't think so. There is nothing. They will be using
okay.
similar Spark, streaming Spark, I mean, something like that only.
Okay. One last question, Arvind.
Yeah, yeah.
So will the certifications really matter to go into data engineering stream?
Okay. So I mean, I cannot directly say that it will not work, it will not create any impact, but it might create impact by the when your profile is being shortlisted by the real time. In right now, no one is directly handpicking the resumes. It is being taken care by
ATS, ATS.
sorry, ATS,
Yes.
right? So it will
Yeah.
directly pick
Exactly.
pick for
Yes.
the words, and it will directly check out to bring your resume. And because I have given a lot of interviews, I did not, I mean, they did not ask whether you have a certification. Only one interview, if I remember correctly, they were asking me whether you have a certification, because they want to
Okay.
confirm, cross confirm with the knowledge you have. That's it. But it will create a value for your I mean, selection, and you can post that as a strength when you are saying that I have certified, in the sense when you have a real time exposure kind of. That will help you, but not mandatory.
Okay. Thank you, Arvind. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
Arvind, it's cool. Like you answered every question in a very patience, with lot of patience. Okay, it's cool. Like we'll try to wind up this session, Arvind, and uh, and it's pleasure that you have accepted our invite and you came here and you answered each and every question in very with lot of patience. And thank you a lot, Arvind, and for accepting my invite. And you came here and you answered and you stayed long for more than 1 hour. And thank you a lot. And thank you, audience,
Thanks, Karthik.
for joining and
Thanks.
taking the good insights from Arvind Sriram. And if you want to connect with him, you can directly go to LinkedIn and you can connect with him. And if you want to ask, like, that's cool. Okay, guys,
Yeah.
we'll
Thanks,
try to
Karthik,
wind
for
up this session.
inviting me.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
It's
Thank you, Arvind. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank you.